Build Universes. Mary Joseph Advices on Marriage. Copyright symbol 2022 Europe Books London. www.europebooks.co.uk. info@europebooks.co.uk. ISBN 9791220118361. First edition, February 2022. Distribution for the United Kingdom, Vine House Distribution Limited. Printed for Italy by Rotamail Italia. Finito di Stampere Presso Rotamail Italia SPA. Vinate, me, Advices on Marriage. Dedication. Wholeheartedly, I want to dedicate this book to all of you, beloved readers. Thanks. I want to thank all my nearest and dearest family and friends, last but certainly not least, the publisher and the editorial team. Thank you very much. Quotation: the beauty of life is in the simplicity of one's heart. Table of Content. Chapter 1, What is Marriage? Chapter 2, Marriage and Social Cultural Factors. Chapter 3, Marriage and One's Personality. Chapter 4, Daily Issues Throughout a Marriage. Chapter 5, How to Live with Each Other. Chapter 6, What to Do when Feelings are Hurt. Chapter 7, How many times have you been married? Chapter 8, Avoid conflicts. Chapter 9, Build your marriage. Chapter 10, Skills to develop. Chapter 11, Cultivate friendship in your marriage. Chapter 12, Good practices throughout your marriage. Chapter 13, Divorce, Causes and Consequences. Preface: this book does not propose several principles or steps to follow to build a successful marriage, but a book that offers advices on the topic of marriage. The author isn't proposing one approach fits all to marriage relationships. On the contrary, the author recognizes that every marriage is different and one approach fits all would not be beneficial. Instead, the author wanted to share with readers several pieces of advices to be mindful of throughout their married life. The author acknowledges that marriage is hard work and not all marriages will pass the test of time. Likewise, not all marriages need to end up in divorce. Because of the limitations of the written word, this book won't cover all aspects related to marriage. Finally, the author wants to take the time to thank all advisors who made this book a reality. Chapter 1, What is Marriage? Before and foremost, I'd like to define marriage, what it is and what it is not. The dictionary describes marriage as a union of two people as partners in a relationship. This union can be legal or formal, historically and in some jurisdictions specifically a union between a man and a woman. There are synonyms given to the word marriage among many others: wedding, spousal, nuptials, 13 ceremony, pledging, mating, among many. Judging from the above definitions, it's fair to say that marriage isn't the opposite of what has been established. If one can say that marriage is a union between two people as life partners in a personal relationship and, historically, a union between a man and a woman, marriage can't be a separation nor can be the annulment of a relationship between two individuals. Sometimes couples are separated, yet they still believe that they are in a marriage relationship. Two people can get nowhere unless if they agree with each other. Marriage has also been described as a very ancient institution. Marriage is seen as a combination or a mixture of elements. Consequently, there is no marriage when there is a lack of such combined elements. 15. Chapter 2, Marriage and Social Cultural Factors. It is essential to look at marriage from a social cultural point of view. Social science views the marriage relationship as fundamental to human relationships. The United Nations described marriage as a social institution through which an adult male and adult female acquire different statuses, husband and wife. The above-named status goes from institution to companionship. The same social science viewpoint proposes that marriage is believed to be a universal pattern of human relationships that is available in every culture or subculture throughout the world. Scientists found that marriage is universal, they believe that most cultures prefer sex in the marital context because of children generated by marital ties benefit from legitimate status. Furthermore, a marriage relationship offers social, emotional, matrimonial, and protective supports to husband and wife as much as their dependents. Other relationships, however, cannot offer the same support. Social science that all the support provided by marriage relationships will be fundamental to future human generation. As a result, without that there is a lack of survival. Social, economic and cultural progression cannot occur into the next generation. A rather more critical view concerning marital relationships. 17 Human civilization would be extinct without the support offered by such marriage relationships in the long term. The United Nations proposed that in most cases community cultural norms are issued as part of chance because of such diversity concerning beliefs, values, and attitudes towards age at marriage for both males and females all over the world. Sexual behavior is likewise said to be reliant on the community's cultural values, norms, and norms that couples hold. Cross-cultural studies indicate that there are two types of attitudes towards sexual behavior. The first one is conservative, and the second one is permissive. In some permissive cultures such as European cultures, the following types of attitudes or sexual behavior are accepted: premarital and extramarital sex or homosexuality, but other cultures such as Arabian cultures, Muslims and the Philippines strictly condemn these patterns of sexual behavior and approve only the sexual behavior only within marital ties. Further studies on the subject also proposed that there is a universal belief that marriage can offer the preferred context for satisfaction when comes to sexual relationships. 19 Chapter 3 Marriage and one's personality. At this point, we have understood what marriage is and have considered it from a cultural standpoint. Therefore, we can move on to see how your personality, which is oneself or a combination of qualities that form an individual's distinctive character, can play a crucial role in determining the building up or relationship or the destruction of it. I prefer to define personality as the total of one's nature. Indeed, your personality in a way is who you are. Think of a person's makeup, disposition and temperament. We often take great delight when it comes to what kind of individuals we are and often think about our personalities and their profound significance to future careers or any social position one should occupy or even its relevance in the workplace. On the other hand, not so much attention has been given to one's personality and its impact on marital relationships. At the beginning of the chapter, I defined your personality as oneself, the total of one's nature. Suppose you have the following qualities which form part of your character: kind, friendly, polite, reliable among countless others. If you possess the above described qualities, you are more likely to have a good marital relationship. This conclusion can be reached just by looking at simple statistics. On the other hand, those who have a bad temperament or other unpleasant aspects of their 21 personality often find it hard to build strong relationships, including marriage. This isn't tricky to explain. The truth is, no one wants to live with an obnoxious person. Consider the following scenarios. After a long working day, you have just got home to face the devil incarnate, I mean your spouse. Nobody likes to live in such a hostile environment. The second scenario goes like this. After a long working day, you have just got home to be greeted by your spouse with a delightful smile assures you that the ugly boss that behaves in a rather unpredictable way isn't coming home. Your spouse possesses all the above-named qualities, treats you well, and offers a secure environment to live in. The last scenario changes the way we feel. Very serious consideration an individual is required to demonstrate on the issue of personality and its influence on the marital relationship. Previous studies about marriage and personality concluded that basic personality traits neuroticism, extraversion, and conscientiousness are important to predict marital satisfaction. According to the Big Five personality traits, also known as the Big Factor models, each one of the big personality traits is significantly linked with marital satisfaction. The conclusion was that traits levels predict marital satisfaction. For example, greater levels of these traits, extraversion, openness, agreeable and conscientiousness, were reliable indicators for marital satisfaction. 23. Contrary to those lower levels of neuroticism, were the indicators for marital satisfaction. The most consistent findings to date concluded that neuroticism personality traits prove to be very problematic in the relationship. Individual high in the trait of neuroticism is the most likely to declare being dissatisfied and file for divorce than those with low in the trait of neuroticism. Even although relationship experts suggested that to maintain enduring romantic relationships, people need to look beyond any physical appearance but focus their attention on the character of their romantic partners. Often the reality is most people care about the opposite. Considering the above, one needs to recognize that it is possible to build a successful marriage relationship if your character helps you to do so. On the other hand, your individuality may be the reason why you struggled to build relationships in the past. I am assuming that you've just realized how unpleasant it is to be in a relationship with someone who isn't by nature so kind, patient, and polite, considerate to say few. When a person is distasteful, it becomes very difficult to establish any relationship with such an individual. Consequently, conflicts will arise and that leads to an unsuccessful marital relationship. Your character not only shows the kind of person you are, but also determine how you would behave in any situation. During conflict or confrontation, you probably would answer to your spouse in a considerate manner, and 25 avoid creating issues regardless of who is correct or wrong, or you may, all thanks to your impulsive nature, answer with 5 stones in each hand. Your personality will determine how you handle every situation. Chapter 4: Daily Issues Throughout a Marriage. In life, all marriages will be subject to problems and misunderstanding situations. The pressure of daily life, to say only a few. I would advise you not to be alarmed or ready to file for divorce every time a new problem arises. People are advised to learn to show empathy and understanding towards one another in their marital relationship. Here, I want to talk about very common problems that come across during marriage. Unfaithfulness is one of the most common among others, such as sexual differences or sexual preferences, personal values 27 and beliefs, life daily stresses, traumatic situations, boredom, financial problems, jealousy, family interference, children, among others. Although there are several problems that most couples face during their marriage life, I will only discuss a few of them. On the issue of infidelity or unfaithfulness, I want to mention that unfaithfulness or infidelity is a common problem in many relationships. Infidelity is the act of being unfaithful to a spouse, includes cheating, having emotional affairs which can be short or long-term, one-night stands, internet relationships, and physical infidelity. The second issue to be addressed is sexual differences, preferences. Most people are aware that physical intimacy is necessary for a long-term relationship. However, can often be the root cause of one of the most common problems in marriages, sexual problems. Those sexual problems can occur due to several reasons, the most common of these reasons being the loss of libido, sexual desire. The notion that only women experience issues with a libido is misleading. Just like women, men also tend to experience the same issues. Having said that, it is important to stress those sexual preferences can affect people's marriage life as much as lack of libido. In a relationship, an individual may have different sexual preferences contrary to the other spouse. Consequently, that may make the other spouse uncomfortable about their sex life, and such can therefore 29 cause conflict or even put pressure on their sex life. Personal values or beliefs are among the most common issues present in marital relationships. Any marriage will reveal people's differences, and disagreements will arise as a result, in light that some differences are just too great to be taken lightly or indeed ignored, and core values and beliefs come among those. One spouse, for example, may have strong religious beliefs and the other may not. Differences in beliefs can cause major troubles for them during their marital relationship. Those problems can be very common in cross-cultural marriages. One among many problems is the way children are raised, the other is the understanding of what is right or wrong. Any differences couple experience in their belief systems, as well as moral goals and expectations, will certainly make room for debate and conflict throughout their marriage relationship. The fourth issue is the issue of traumatic situations. When married individuals go through any traumatic situations, that will certainly bring more pressure into their already under pressure married life. When the weight of the responsibility and pressure is too great, the marriage can come to an end. The fifth issue is the issue of stress. Stress is a very common issue for married individuals during their marriage. Stress may be caused by many different reasons, including 31 financial, family, and mental and illness. The sixth issue married couples face is the issue of boredom. Boredom is an often underestimated yet serious problem. It is not uncommon for anyone to feel bored. However, in many relationships after a certain time, people become bored with their relationship. It is often because they may do the same daily activities for many years without engaging in anything else. Their marriage relationship will lack spontaneous daily tasks. Last but not least, the issue of jealousy. Jealousy is a common problem in many married relationships that can make a sweet relationship turn sour. When one spouse is extremely jealous, it becomes very difficult for the other spouse to stay in that relationship. Chapter 5: How to live with each other. A married couple should aim to live in harmony and aim to have their hearts filled with love, empathy, understanding and kindness towards each other. People are advised to show some consideration, show appreciation, and respect, give priority to their partners, offer support to one another, and show compassion. They need to be careful about the kind of language they use towards each other. Words have both a negative and a positive impact on our lives. 33. Always take into consideration both you and your spouse's needs before anyone else's needs. No one else should come before your spouse. Couples make the common mistake of answering other people's requests before answering those of their spouses. Praise your spouse as often as possible. Don't make your spouse feel like your spouse isn't competent to discuss your problems, especially professional issues. Always say please and thank you to your spouse. Don't take your spouse for granted. Offer to help or assist in any way, even if there is no need. Stop being right all the time. No one enjoys being around a person who believes to be perfect. Apologize and admit being wrong when that is the case. Admitting being wrong is a sign of being a mature individual. Mature individuals don't fight to be right. Sometimes, couples can be very unkind towards one another. Instead, they should make efforts to be kind to one another. Kindness is not a weakness, on the contrary, it is a very much appreciated quality that is an attitude of the heart. When couples fail to demonstrate kindness to one another, their marriage can easily become sour. As a result, solving their shortcomings will be extremely difficult, at times almost impossible. 35. Chapter 6: What to do when feelings are hurt. Restoration of both feelings and trust should be the first and most important step to follow every time your spouse's feelings have been bruised. Your spouse is required to trust you again, However, before that, any old feelings and trust must be reintroduced. Once you realize that you have hurt your spouse, the need for restoration is necessary with the attempt to put in place a peaceful relationship. Sometimes it's difficult to have a satisfying marital relationship when personal feelings are bruised, and worse of all, the trust between couples does not exist anymore. The need for restoration of bruised feelings and trust is fundamental. 37 Chapter 7 How many times have you been married? I am sorry to ask you this question, but I need to. How many times have you been married before? Have you ever heard someone saying, old flames are always a problem? Yes, that's true. Think of that lovely place you've chosen to spend your honeymoon. Suppose you have a new lover in your life and chose to visit the same place. However, the new lover did not enjoy being there only because you've been there with someone else before that. The above question should be very relevant to your new marital life, because although people break up from relationships, they become attached emotionally to their old flames, often are called soul tie. Some of their preferences may be subject to the way they used to relate to their previous lovers. Often people have a natural tendency to compare the way a new lover behaves in contrast to the behavior of their previous one. Such attitudes can open a door to conflicts in your marriage. In life, every individual is unique, therefore, it's advisable to treat your spouse according to his or her unique individuality. What works for one person might not work for others. I want to mention that moving away from an old relationship can be painful, but also rewarding. 39 Chapter 8 Avoid conflicts. A conflict is a disagreement between individuals or an argument that can be simply the result of a misunderstanding. Often married people argue over very small things. Such arguments can be the cause for conflict, often unnecessary. However, married couples should consider applying the following tips to avoid creating conflicts in their marriage. Avoid quick judgments. Quick unfair judgments can escalate conflicts. It's important to say that first impressions do matter to us, and at times that's all it matters. People get hold of first impressions. As a result, forming new impressions quickly enough can be hard. By then, a conflict had already taken place. Instead, individuals should get the facts right before interpreting the situation. By nature, people tend to look for anything or facts that would assert what they believe and would avoid anything that contradicts them or what they believe, even if that means compromising the truth. Assume that your spouse is late once again. This time, however, is due to reasons beyond control. Under those circumstances, you should not 41 feed the idea that your spouse is late once more, but should look into the possibility that the lateness is beyond control. Putting yourself in your spouse's shoes isn't always easy, however, a married person is advised to at least try. You should always think about treating others the way they would like to be treated. Focus on your spouse's views, listening to what he or she has to say. The tendency is to make sure that you made your point clear. However, you can only avoid conflict if you give your spouse a chance to explain the situation from your spouse's view. Speak only one person at a time. It may sound obvious, but when people are upset, no one wants to wait patiently and listening to what the other person has to say. Married individuals should express their feelings to one another without being interrupted. The tendency is to jump in and make your point heard. However, a sweet answer can put to an end a huge argument. Being right or wrong may be on its own the reason for many conflicts. Being right may feed a person's ego, and be wrong 43 would probably bruise one's pride. Concentrate on a solution instead. Chapter 9 Build your marriage. Have you seen a house being built from the ground before? Even if the answer is no, most people share the idea that building a house can be hard work and requires several steps involved. In light of all that, sometimes things just don't go according to plan. Building a house can also be costly and may take longer than expected. Just like building a house, your marriage should be addressed similarly. Many people want to get married yet they don't make any planning ahead, never thought about the kind of marriage they want to have, how they would like to organize their finances, or the most 44 effective way to raise their children, set their priorities as a married couple, to name a few. Any building construction needs to stand upon very strong foundations. This may include metal frames, solid concrete, so on and so forth. Likewise, when comes to your marriage, you will need to have strong foundations and essential components. Let the existing love between you two be the first strong ground on which your marriage will be standing upon. Everything else involving your marriage should be subject to that love. Building up your marriage involves engaging in daily activities, spending time with one another, making each other a priority. Couples should create a pleasant atmosphere to live in. Be willing and prepared to please each other with words or anything you know your spouse loves. 45. The bottom line is to build up your marriage upon a strong foundation, which is love. A marriage filled with love will overcome many conflicts and any unpleasantness that your marriage will be subject to. 46. Chapter 10 Skills to develop. I believe most people would probably guess the first and one of the most important skills needed during your marital life. It has been said that the main difference between happy couples and the ones that are not happy is in their communication skills. To prevent your marital relationship from being unpleasant or the subject of several situations, namely, silent treatment, anger, bitterness, or resentment, which is in most cases the product of poor communication between couples, married individuals are advised to not only learn and develop effective communication skills during their conjugal relationships, but above all are required to learn to express their feelings with one another. 47. Marital partners should share their either negative or positive feelings, before running out to an old friend to talk about how they feel about their spouse. In general, good communication skills involve the following: listening, explaining, responding, and understanding. The following are some tips you should consider applying to develop effective communication skills during your marital life. Listen carefully and, if appropriate, to do so responsibly. Any communication becomes effective when both parties are involved and participate. Give your spouse a chance to talk while the other listens to every concern, even if you don't agree with the issue presented. Empathize, and ensure your spouse that you understand how your spouse feels about your actions. Listen to your spouse without judgment. When people do not 48 judge, they feel valued and loved regardless of their weaknesses. Don't criticize your spouse, avoid any insults, inappropriate body language or shouting. You may criticize your spouse only once and your spouse may never overcome such criticism. Consequently, your spouse may develop a personal defense approach that would inhibit any existing communication between spouses. Being able to understand one another will be crucial. Often when people feel understood, they not only feel secure but protected. Understanding one another during your spousal relationship will help enhance trust between you and your spouse. The tone of your voice. It's important to learn to use the right tone for better communication results. People who use the right tone often tend to be in control of the situation and deal with it with a degree of maturity. 49. It's understood that when your tone is effective, offers people the opportunity to show humility and show politeness. Be mindful of your spouse's explanations. Both spouses are responsible for the control of the discussion. Give space to open-ended questions. By doing so, you will allow your spouse the opportunity to voice his or her opinion. Maintain a calm attitude. An effective communication strategy will require you to stay calm while speaking to your spouse. Staying calm will offer you the opportunity to exercise self-control and gain a greater understanding of the situation, and your spouse can clear any hurt feelings or pain and move on seeking a solution. Show appreciation. Throughout life, everyone likes to be appreciated. Your spouse needs to receive positive compliments. Receiving compliments on its own can lead to successful communication between individuals. 50. Consider the influence of your spouse. The married couple should always work together seeking to develop effective communication skills and any other skills mentioned above which will have a positive impact on their marital relationship. 51. Chapter 11. Cultivate friendship in your marriage. Webster Dictionary defines a friend as a person who you like and enjoy being with. Often, we call friends those who, just like us, have similar interests. Often, we share both happy and sad moments with friends, especially those we consider to be our best friends. Having your spouse as your friend can be one of the greatest benefits of your marriage relationship, and it should not be taken lightly. Healthy marriages are characterized by a healthy friendship. At some point in life, the emotional connection between married couples can be more important than physical contact or physical intimacy. Therefore, cultivating a friendship in your marriage will strengthen your marriage and will be beneficial to determine the way you treat and relate to each other as a couple. Although a friend is someone we share the most intimate aspects of our lives with, the married couple tends to overlook that. Not having your spouse as a close friend can put married individuals in a difficult situation. Although married couples can have great respect for their marriage at times, they don't trust their spouse as a good friend to talk about and seek, instead, the counsel of an old friend. Unfortunately, some marriages have ended up in divorce because either one spouse cheated on the other or because one spouse has someone else rather than the spouse as a close friend and often shares personal feelings with an outsider. In my family, there is a saying that goes like that. You should not take and wash your underwear in other people's house. The meaning is, personal problems should be dealt with behind closed doors. 53. Even if you know your best friend from childhood, it's imperative to develop the good habit of sharing your life, your matters with your spouse before sharing with anyone else. Otherwise, you will have a marriage without any walls around it. A healthy friendship between spouses will offer great support to their marriage, especially during tough times. The suggestion here isn't that you shouldn't talk to your friends, but that you shouldn't run to your friends to discuss any marital issues before talking to your spouse. Cultivating friendship in your marriage is crucial so that you don't have to run out of the door when things aren't going well in your marriage. Looking for a shoulder to cry on which isn't your spouse's will eventually create problems to your marital relationship. Among those problems will be hurting your spouse's feelings. Married couples are therefore advised to develop a healthy friendship during their marital life. Such friendship will create an environment that will help them feel safe enough to be more open with one another without being judged or feel insecure to discuss problems. 55. Chapter 12. Good practices throughout your marriage. As we come to the last chapter of this book, I'd like to consider some practical tips you should pay attention to and apply to your marital life. It's always good practice to ask questions rather than make assumptions. Once I heard that every time to assume, you're more likely to make a fool out of yourself. By asking questions, you will be entering into a dialogue. Spend time with each other, better yet create an opportunity to spend time with one another. Often in life, the more time we spend with a person, better we get to know that person. We learn from people and are made aware of our strengths and weaknesses as we go along. We start to see ourselves for who we are. Listening to one another and respect each other's views will create an environment of peace and harmony in your marital life. I want to challenge married couples to learn to listen to one another without always offering any solutions or whatsoever. Good listeners by nature don't offer many solutions. Help increase your spouse's confidence, especially if you know that your spouse lacks confidence as a whole and tends to be indecisive by nature. Under any circumstance, make your spouse feel stupid, insecure, inadequate, or not so important, especially if you're the only breadwinner in your family. I want to advise married couples to strive to show appreciation for everything their spouse does. Lack of appreciation is a marriage killer. 57. As a married couple, you should make every effort to encourage one another when comes to the fulfillment of not only individual dreams but also any dreams you have as a couple. Even when you feel like there isn't much support you can offer your spouse, just let your spouse know that you are there to help. I often like to think about dogs. Our beloved pets are faithful by nature. If you lose your house and find yourself on the streets, your dog will be by your side no matter what. Be a good friend to your spouse, by cultivating a good marital friendship between you and your spouse, so you will avoid having outsiders being determining agents to decide the way your marriage should be. Developing effective communication between you and your spouse will always be essential. Likewise, avoid unnecessary criticisms, and instead speak the truth in love. Express your feelings and views, yet bearing in mind your spouse's opinion. You are required to think of your spouse as your main priority. Your spouse should not feel like he or she is not your priority. Keep your sex life a personal and private matter between you and your spouse. Not everyone enjoys discussing their sex life with others. Words have the potential to penetrate people's hearts. Tell your spouse that your love is unconditional. Your actions will reveal one's true feelings. At some point, you may feel like you don't have all the qualities above mentioned which are needed to help you build up a long-lasting marriage. There is no need to be anxious about it. Just think of at least one quality or a strength that you have and let that be your starting point. If you want to build a successful marriage, you will need to develop 59. The right mindset. Finally, above all, it is important to recognize that long-lasting marriage stand upon solid foundations, and unconditional love is one of those. Chapter 13. Divorce. Causes and consequences. As long as there is marriage, there's a possibility of having a divorce. Someone once mentioned to me that divorce is an ugly word, which sounds grunge, but the sad reality about it is divorce does exist. It happens even when people didn't mean it to happen. It happens every day everywhere. In this chapter, we will explore the profound implications of getting a divorce, positive and negative effects, especially on children. Children are amongst the most vulnerable in life and often the most affected by grown-ups' separation or divorce. This chapter will also propose ways in which parents can help and support their children while going through separation or after a divorce. Marriage is considered one of the most important and basic institutions in our societies, and without marriage, divorce does not exist. The introduction of divorce has caused a decline in the number of marriages worldwide. Divorce has made marriage less popular in our societies. Furthermore, divine divorce proves to be a very costly process. Divorce refers to a legal dissolution of the marriage relationship, any formal separation between spouses according to established customs. 61. What causes divorce? Divorce can be caused by many reasons. Amongst these reasons are economic, religious reasons, age of the person, first marriage, domestic violence, medical, addiction, unrealized expectations, extramarital affairs, change in status, and sexual incompatibility, among others. Let's discuss the most common reasons in more detail. Extramarital sexual affairs. Webster defines it as being sexual intercourse between a married person and someone other than his or her spouse. An affair can last in one way or other for years. Many individuals profess that the reason for extramarital affairs is lack of success in their marriage, where both spouses fail to please each other. Economic reasons. According to the American Journal of Sociology, a husband's unemployment can be a key factor behind divorce. Lack of money can often only 63 cause marital problems but also leads to divorce. Married couples that face financial difficulties deal with a lot of stress, which leads to constant arguments and lack of communication between couples. In situations whereby extreme spending habits or where one spouse controls the finance of the home can be prone to marital strain that can culminate in divorce. Domestic violence. Domestic and gender violence account for some divorce cases in our societies. The term domestic violence refers to a felony or misdemeanor crimes of violence committed by a current or former spouse, a violent or aggressive behavior within the home, typically involving the violent abuse of a spouse or partner. Addiction. The literature proposes that people can become addicted to substances, people or behavior, whether 64 through drugs, gambling, alcohol or any other addiction can ruin a person's life. When a person is controlled by addiction, such individual can lose friends, spouse, employment and their marriage. A person's controlled by addiction display behavior such as lying, cheating, aggression, which becomes unbearable to spouses to deal with, consequently leading to divorce. Unrealistic expectations. Often before marriage, people have different expectations of their future spouses or towards married life. Sometimes people expect their future spouses to fulfill their expectations regarding finances, social status, or even sexually. However, these expectations may fall short or never happen, therefore making marital life less attractive for them and end up filing for divorce. Change in status. When a person changes his or her status in society, changes may 65 differently aspects of one life by bringing new friends or influences in his or her life can cause divorce. The consequences of such status changes may lead to wanting to marry someone new to fit the new standards of one's life. The same may occur when an individual drops his or her status in life. A spouse may seek divorce because things are no longer the way they used to be and therefore finding hard to deal with. At times spouses may feel hard to deal with the shame that may result of one's change in status. The effect divorce has on children. One definition of the word marriage is a social contract. Therefore, anything that poses a threat to the marital relationship will affect family and society. Children are vulnerable by nature. A child is a young human being below the age of puberty or the legal age of maturity. 66 children are dependent on their parents or other adults in society. As a result, any time a couple goes through a divorce, if they are children involved, they will suffer the consequence of it most. The following are some of the most common problems caused by divorce on children. Young children often have questions and struggle to communicate their feelings or make sense of the situation. They find it hard to interact with just one parent. At times takes them as a long time to get used to life with just one parent present in their lives. Children of divorced parents suffer a lot of psychological problems. Under the circumstances, children feel withdrawn when they are with their peers, and the effects may be long-lasting in their future relationships. On many occasions, divorced parents take their anger and frustrations on their 67 children, especially in the absence of their divorced spouse, therefore, making the child an object of abuse by parents. When children believe one parent is the reason behind the divorce, they tend to feel resentment towards one parent who they believe has caused the divorce. They begin to hate that parent. Last but not least, children of divorced parents are more likely to display social problems such as sexual vices, illicit drugs, alcohol and robbery. Although divorce may have some positive effects, for example, provide freedom from a hostile environment and allow children to start a new life, the negative effects outnumber the positive effect. How parents can prevent or stop the negative effect of divorce or separation on children. 68 First, The most effective way to stop the negative effects of divorce is to stop divorce from happening in its totality. The best option for the parents would be to stay in their marriages peacefully and raise their children accordingly. Second, parents can prevent the negative effect of divorce by providing children's welfare. It is not always possible to always eradicate divorce, therefore parents should take care of the psychological well-being of their children, as well as their needs, either economical, emotional, or educational. Parents should consider themselves responsible to let their children know that their love for them is unconditional and will last forever. Their separation will not destroy their parental love. 69 types of divorce. There are 3 types of divorce, and the impact on children is subject to the type of divorce parents have. Amicable. This kind of divorce often seems like the easiest for children. In this type of divorce, parents speak freely to each other about their children. Parents hide their negative emotions. This doesn't mean these emotions don't exist. Often parents make an effort to get along for the sake of their children. The so-called amicable option offers children more time with both parents compared to the other types of divorce. Disengaged type of divorce. Here both couples avoid each other as much as possible, yet can create a good connection between them. Effective communication, and any hostility between them will be dealt with by avoiding each other. 70 children can become close to their parents and parents keep a distance between them, becoming disengaged from each other. This type of divorce spares children the pain caused by conflict and hostility between couples. High conflict type of divorce. This is the most difficult and the one that causes more damage to children. It's common for parents to keeping fighting even years after separating from each other. Children living under the circumstances face conflict on a daily basis. They become distressed under a lot of stress, trauma, and often live in fear, are subject to violence and can become violent towards their peers. The above types of divorce are determining factors when comes to determine the impact it will have on children. Divorce isn't a one-day state of affairs. Divorce is rather a painful process. 71 that happens through different stages. Next, we will discuss the 3 stages of divorce. The immediate crisis phase. This is the stage where parents separate or starting filing for divorce. Children under these circumstances feel that their lives will be changed dramatically. This stage is often characterized by fear, anxiety, disbelief, and conflict between parents. Short-term aftermath. This second stage can last up to 2 years after the immediate crisis phase has gone. By now most families realize and recognize the reality of divorce. This phase is characterized by visitation agreements between parents. Unfortunately, too often parents may use their children to go between both parents, which are very damaging to the children. Sad to say, but it's true. Parents are 72 capable of using their children to manipulate things in their favor. Long range. This is the last phase, which begins 2 or 3 years after the initial separation. The most stressful aspect of this phase is the parental hostility. Children under the circumstances are at high risk for developing emotional and behavior disorders. What effects does divorce have on children? The effect divorce has on children is subject to the type of divorce they face. In addition to that, these effects can be short-term or long-term, even positive or negative. Short-term effect. There are 3 short-term effects. During the first one, children show signs of being upset soon after their parents' separation. 73 in the second short effect. Most children show feelings of depression and anxiety because they are losing a parent. As a result, these children find it hard to form a close relationship with others because they become fearful of losing. The last short-term effect is the one in which children's behavior in school can be problematic and children show signs of academic underachievement. All the above-named effects can lead to long-term effects because of the impact they may cause on children. Children up to the age of 15 show signs of depression, are unable to achieve academic performance, experience difficulties forming long-lasting attachments in their relationships and struggle with their love life. Long-term effects here: children that grow up in a single-parent household tend to be at a high risk of becoming delinquents in contrast to 74 these children raised in a two-parent home. Additionally, younger children of divorcees face a greater disadvantage compared to older children because often fathers are less involved in the lives of young children. Among other negative long-term effects are low self-esteem, more difficulties forming relationships, and being pessimistic about the future. However, there's evidence that divorce on its own doesn't create negative emotions and behaviors, but what causes it is the conflict, bitterness, hostility, and all the above that happens in these families and couples that cause problems in for children. Although divorce causes many negative effects on children, divorce can ironically bring positive effects. For example, when families are saturated with conflicts between the parents, divorce becomes a way out, and might be in the best interest 75 of the children involved, allowing children to escape from a conflict zone. Children will be free from the hostile environment. There's a good chance that children can enhance levels of functioning in maturity, self-esteem, empathy and androgyny. How children respond to divorce regardless of their age group: children wish that their parents will get back together. How children respond to divorce depends on the child's age, gender and level of development. Based on the child's age and level of development, parents can and should use different strategies to help their children adjust and therefore suffer fewer negative consequences as a result of their parents' divorce. Children's age group, level of development and how parents can help them. 76 children at preschool age fear that they will be abandoned by one or both parents. It's not uncommon for children at this stage of development to revert to earlier shown behaviors such as wetting the bed or even acting like a baby. The negative impact of losing a parent affects the child's development negatively. Under the circumstances, parents need to reassure the child over and over again that the separation or divorce was not his or her fault. Parents should show unconditional love to their children and show sympathy. When it comes to gender, however, despite age group, girls tend to be better at hiding negative emotion in contrast to boys. School age: here children between the ages of 6 and 8 are the most affected by the parents' separation and divorce. Children demonstrate signs of being very distressed as a consequence of divorce. 77 The best help or support parents can offer is by supporting the ex-spouse and never put the other down, and support the children consistently. Older school age: because of their age group, children here tend to deny the divorce or try to hide from their friends and often blame their parents. The best support a parent can offer their children is to take responsibility for their problems and feelings. Parents should not treat the child as a replacement for the other spouse. Parents are very aware of the reason why they are getting a divorce, and how it will affect everyone's life. One of the best things parents can do is to offer their children the opportunity to embrace their feelings honestly. Other alternatives for families: parents should be aware that they have a choice when it comes to the kind of 78 divorce they will have for the sake of their children and being able to help the children adjust to the new life after separation or divorce in a healthy manner. Parents must set the tone. Alternative strategies to help their families that are going through a divorce include mediation, psychoeducational approaches, co-parenting, and divorce therapy or counseling. One of the benefits of mediation is the chance of decreasing the likelihood of going to court and leads to numerous agreements being reached. Mediation is used to reduce the negative effects of divorce. Couples are encouraged to make their decisions regarding the future of their families. Mediation offers couples the opportunity to meet with a mediator and deal with the easiest issues first and then gradually working into the most difficult issues. For instance, custody of the children. 79. In addition to that, parental education can be very helpful as well. This can be achieved through seminars or workshops. All the above alternative approaches are intended to reduce the negative implication of marital discord and help children to learn coping-to-cope strategies for effectively dealing with the divorce. When parents choose to stay calm and show composure during a child's emotional pain or behavioral problems caused by the divorce and are willing to make sense of the situation, they will offer their children a model for confronting his or her troubles and will provide hope towards resolution during contentious situations. Parents should learn to respect their children as individuals regardless of their age group, help them make sense of things from the child's perspective and own childlike manner, aid them through the painful process bearing in mind that 80 children may never recover as a result of separation failed marriage. Furthermore, parents should always be willing to clarify the matter, or questions, that their children may have, instead of suggesting that they are the grown-ups, and they know better without offer the child a chance to express their feelings and childlike understanding of the issue. It's fundamental to parents to show their children that their thoughts, feelings, and opinions are valuable to everyone in the family. Parents must bear with their children while going through separation or divorce even if they misinterpret and misunderstand the issue for what it truly is. After all, they are only children, therefore can only handle and understand so much. The negative impact of parents' divorce or separation on their children is very profound. That includes emotional, behavioral problems, underperform in 81 school, as well as future relationships later in adult life. However, one should consider that there's a positive impact of separation or divorce can offer. This positive effect can be escaping from a hostile or abusive environment, even provide maturity in the child. However, parents have a choice and the means to help make divorce easier for their children to deal with. Parents ought to help children adjust to the new life with few or none at all of the negative effects. A divorce or separation will always make children feel abandoned or let down, even when they are not capable of phrasing it properly. Divorce is hard for couples to handle and deal with it by nature, therefore it's even harder for the children involved. 82. Thank you for reading this book. 83. Thank you for reading this book. Index Preface, Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4, Chapter 5, Chapter 6, Chapter 7, Chapter 8, Chapter 9, Chapter 10, Chapter 11, Chapter 12, 12, 13, 16, 20, 27, 33, 36, 38, 40, 44, 47, 52, 56, Chapter 13, 47, 85. Thank you for reading this book. 87. Biography. Mary Joseph is a writer with several years of experience in both creative and educational pursuits. With an academic background in psychology, counseling, and international law, she brings a unique perspective to her writing. Her work is deeply influenced by her faith, as demonstrated in her latest book, which she wrote under God's prophetic guidance and grace. This book serves not only as an inspirational guide for Christians but also as a resource for anyone seeking to deepen their prayer life and understanding of the subject. Based in London, Mary enjoys spending quality time with her family and beloved pets. In addition to her writing, she is a prolific musician and producer, blending her artistic talents to create meaningful and impactful works. Her passion for exploring new ideas and sharing them with others continues to drive her creative journey. Thank you for reading this book. 89. Thank you for reading this book. Thank you for reading this book. 91. Thank you for reading this book. Thank you for reading this book. 93. Thank you for reading this book. Thank you for reading this book. 95. Thank you for reading this book. Thank you for reading this book. 97. Thank you for reading this book.